With each passing day, we are seeing more tent encampments, fewer affordable houses, and more people forced into homelessness. In my community of Kelowna Lake Country, I hear constantly from residents about their concerns regarding homelessness, and we see people struggling right on the street. Residents are justifiably concerned over vulnerable people suffering on our streets. They're also concerned about the implications increasing homelessness has, such as with crime occurring in encampments. Nationally, the story is similar across Canada. The Parliamentary Budget Officer released a detailed report in May this year outlining the state of homelessness in Canada. The data shows the NDP Liberal government is failing on this issue. According to this report, since 2018, chronic homelessness has increased by 38%. Chronic homelessness refers to persistent or long-term homelessness for at least 180 days. The Liberal government committed to eliminating chronic homelessness by 2030. This increase illustrates just how much the Liberals are failing on this issue. It also stated in this report the number of individuals living in unsheltered locations has increased by a staggering 88%. Unsheltered locations are places not intended for human habitation, like streets, alleys, parks, transit stations, and encampments. This increase is significant and should worry every Canadian. Canadians should not be sleeping on the street. What we are seeing is the result of a total failure of responsibility from this Liberal government and their partners in the NDP, and this is unacceptable. There are over 35,000 people that experience homelessness in any given night, according to the most recently available data from the Parliamentary Budget Officer. By year, it is estimated that 235,000 people experience homelessness. These figures only collect information from shelters. Some experts believe the true number of those experiencing homelessness can be triple of what is actually reported, which would potentially be more than 700,000 people. And these aren't just numbers, these are people. These figures are a reflection of the heartbreaking reality too many Canadians are increasingly facing. Each one of these people are a family member or a friend. They are neighbours that can no longer afford or manage to stay in permanent housing. They are Canadians whose Canadian dream has been crushed and they're just barely getting by. Homelessness is often a complex issue that can intersect with many other issues such as addiction and mental health problems. However, we know that housing affordability is just one key overarching reason. An expert witness at the Housing Committee from the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness stated that, quote, homelessness is a housing affordability problem. It is driven by high rent and low vacancy, unquote. Unfortunately, the NDP Liberal government is failing. Since 2015, housing costs have doubled. Rent has doubled, mortgages have doubled, and this NDP Liberal government is not creating the policies to build the homes Canadians need, and affordability has plummeted as a result. We need to do more to address homelessness. That's why Conservatives will build homes by linking federal infrastructure money to housing construction and by firing the gatekeepers that block home building and contribute to housing affordability. We will axe the taxes and get a softwood lumber agreement with the U.S. in order to bring down construction costs and bring home investment to housing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Crown Relations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In the spring, we outlined in the Budget 2024 our plan to build a Canada that works better for every generation. A Canada where younger generations can get ahead, where their hard work pays off, and where they can buy or rent their own home. To support this, we are also making Canada's tax system fairer by asking the very wealthiest to pay a bit more, so that we can make investments in prosperity for every generation. Today, Canadians pay tax on the income from their job. This is fair. What's not so fair is that currently they only pay taxes on 50% of capital gains, which is the profit generally made when an asset such as stocks or rental property is sold. Increasing the capital gains inclusion rate from 1/2 to 2/3 on capital gains realized annually for above $250,000 by individuals and on all capital gains realized by corporations and most type of trusts will create a fairer tax system and one that does not disproportionately benefit the wealthy. To ensure the middle class Canadians and Canadian entrepreneurs don't pay higher taxes, the government is maintaining existing capital gains exemptions and even creating new ones. This includes ensuring that people pay no capital gains tax when they sell their principal residence. In addition, we will introduce a new $250,000 annual threshold for individuals so that those with a modest capital gains will continue to benefit from the current 50% inclusion rate. And we will increase the lifetime capital gains exemption to $1.25 million from the current maximum of about $1 million on the sale of small business shares or farm or fishing property. We are also introducing a new Canadian entrepreneur incentive that reduces the inclusion rate to 1/3 on a lifetime maximum of $2 million in eligible capital gains. Recently announced enhancements from eliminating the founder and reducing ownership requirements to expanding the eligibility to more small businesses will further ensure innovators and small business owners, including farmers, are rewarded for their hard work. Combined with the $1.25 million lifetime capital gains exemption, when this incentive is fully rolled out, entrepreneurs will pay less tax and be better off on capital gains up to $6.25 million.
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, you know, tonight we're talking about homelessness and tent encampments, and this just shows how completely out of touch the Liberal member is, considering that he spent most of the time talking about the capital gains tax. And so we can't address homelessness if we're not increasing housing availability. And the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation has stated that 5.8 million homes are needed to build and restore housing affordability in Canada. An expert at the Housing Committee said there's, quote, not a chance, unquote, that the government meets these numbers. And this makes sense, given that housing starts continue to fall short of what is needed to address housing affordability. Never has a government spent so much to achieve so little, and that's the Liberal government's record. In Canada, there are more tent encampments, more homeless, more people not able to pay for basic necessities. And unlike Conservatives, the NDP Liberals simply won't create the policies to build the homes that Canadians need to address the housing crisis and homelessness. This is why we need to have a carbon tax election so that Canadians can make the decision to bring home the Canada that we know and love. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, today it is possible for a carpenter or a nurse to pay a tax at a higher marginal rate than a multimillionaire. That isn't fair. That's why our government is increasing the inclusion rate for capital gains over $250,000 for individuals with the exemptions I mentioned, to make Canada's tax system fairer. In the process, it will also generate new revenue that will help make life cost less for millions of Canadians, particularly millennials and Generation Z. It will help fund our efforts to turbocharge the building of 4 million more homes. It will support investments in growth and productivity that will pay dividends for years to come. Thank you.